Today on Hampton Sip and Paint Kids Paint, we're going to be painting this cupcake together. Hi, welcome to virtual Sipping and Painting Hampton Kids Paint. My name is Thea and I use she, her pronouns. To paint with me today, you will need some painting materials. If you stop by to say hi and see us at Sipping and Painting Hampton, you may have gotten a kids kit, but you can make your own collection of painting supplies. We will be selling the original copy of the painting that we're making today at the studio, and we also have masks for sale, so check our website for retail hours. For our painting today, you will need the following materials: an apron or old shirt to cover and protect your clothing, a cloth to cover and protect your table, a big, medium, and small paintbrush, a canvas, red, yellow, blue, black, and white paint on a paper plate, an extra paper plate for mixing, paper towels or an old rag to wipe your brushes on, and a jar half filled with water to clean your brushes. Before we get started, I want you to know that you can pause this video at any time and take as much time as you need on pause so that you don't feel rushed. While we are painting, we're going to leave our brushes in the water jar so that the paint doesn't dry on them and we can clean them later. I am going to go through this painting with you step by step. Feel free to make any changes you like to your painting and use your personal creativity. I love it when you make your painting in your own unique way. Are you ready to get started? Today we're going to paint this cupcake, and so I'm going to start with my big brush. I've put my brushes in the water jar, and I'm going to take out my big brush to get started. I'm wiping the brush on the lip of the water jar, and I'm going to blot it on my paper towels. So first, I'm going to pick up white paint on my big brush, and I'm going to put it on my mixing plate, and I'm going to take a corner of that big brush and dip it in the blue paint and mix up some light blue paint on my mixing plate. Now you can add as much blue as you feel you need to your paint, but I usually start with the lighter color paint. So I started with white, and I'm mixing it with a little bit of blue on that big brush. And you can also dip the brush in the water jar a little bit. I always add a little bit of water to the paint because we want to thin it out and make it a little bit less thick than it is when it comes out of the containers. And that helps it actually dry a little bit faster. When the acrylic paint has a little water in it, believe it or not, it dries a little faster. We want it to be kind of the consistency of Hershey's syrup. So white paint, little bit of blue paint mixed on your mixing plate with your big brush mixed with a little bit of water. So now I'm going to use that to paint the background around my cupcake here. So this is, let me show you the painting close up. I have this little cupcake templated on my canvas, and if you don't have a canvas that was pre-templated, you can make a square base to your cupcake that goes about 1/3 of the way up the canvas, and an upside down U shape coming on top of that cupcake, and a little circle for a cherry on top. So I have that pre-drawn on this canvas with pencil on the canvas, and I'm going to paint the background with that light blue paint. So I'm just going to go all the way around my little cupcake. It's okay if you run over the edges of your drawing a little bit. I'm going to try to kind of stay outside those lines, but it's okay if you run over it. We just kind of want to generally go around that edge with our blue paint and get that whole background painted up. And be sure to also go all the way around the edges of the canvas if you have a canvas that wraps around stretcher bars like this canvas. Sometimes we use canvases that are flat boards, and they just wrap the canvas right around a thin piece of cardboard. But in this case, I'm using a canvas that's wrapped around wooden stretcher bars. So I want to go all the way around the edge to kind of finish up around the edges of the painting. And make sure you also paint the bottom edge that's resting on your easel, if you have an easel, or if you just have it sitting on the table, make sure you do that bottom edge as well, because you want to have it all painted all the way around when it's finished. And I'm using white paint mixed with blue paint on my big brush and painting up that whole background. So that is how that looks when it's done. Oh, make sure I get that bottom edge so that it's all finished. Got to paint the bottom too. And the top. And once we have our background painted, we can get started on our cupcake. So I'm going to take this big brush and I'm going to put it in the water jar when I'm not using it, because I don't want the brushes to dry out, because I want to be able to clean them later. Now I'm going to switch to my medium-sized brush so that I can paint the bottom of my cupcake. And I'm going to use yellow paint and white paint mixed together. And you can do this on your mixing plate. Start with your medium-sized brush and pick up some white paint, put it on the mixing plate, and then you can dip that medium-sized brush in the yellow paint. And in this case, you can make it about half and half. Half white paint, half yellow paint, and mix that all around. And then you can use that yellow paint to paint the bottom of your cupcake. And I'm just going straight up and down with these brush strokes with that medium-sized brush to paint the bottom of my cupcake. Get that all painted, and I'm basically painting in the lines that I made. Let me hold that up so you can see it real close. And we'll go back and make some outlines later to kind of straighten those edges. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to get that bottom all filled in with yellow so that it's kind of a bright, happy yellow wrapper. Now I'm going to take this medium-sized brush and swish it around really well in the water jar to get it nice and clean. You want to make sure you swish that around. I have a glass jar here. If you have a plastic jar, that'll work too, but you might want to put your hand on the lip of the jar as you swish it around so that you don't knock it over. And now I'm going to take that clean medium-sized brush and dip it in the white paint and put the white paint on my mixing plate and dip that medium-sized brush in the red paint, got a little red on there, and mix it around until we have a pink on our mixing plate. And here again, I'm going to dip the brush in the water while it has that pink paint on the tip of the brush and spread that all around so that it's a little bit thinned out. And with the edges of this cupcake, I kind of drew it as an upside down U shape, but you can get creative if you want to make scalloped, bumpy edges. That might make a cute icing pattern. So you can be creative, kind of use little twirly brush strokes and spin the brush around a little bit to make those edges bumpy. It doesn't have to be a straight line. We can make it kind of fun and bumpy and look like icing. Make a really yummy cupcake. So I'm using my medium-sized brush and some pink paint, and you can even scallop the bottom edge, or you could go straight across where that wrapper meets the bottom of your cupcake. It's up to you how you want to make your cupcake texture. So I'll hold that up so you can see it closely. I have a little pink icing cupcake on a yellow wrapper, and I want to make sure I put a red cherry on top. So for that, I'm going to leave behind this medium-sized brush in the water jar and get out my little skinny round brush. And I just spun that around on my paper towel. And when I do that, I actually lay the brush flat so that I get the water off of the handle of the brush as well as the hairy tip of the brush. So I want to make sure that the brush is just damp, and I'm going to dip it in the white paint and put that on my, oh, actually, you know, I already forgot. I was going to make a red cherry. So let me clean the brush off again. I'm going to dip that little brush in the red paint, because whoever heard of a white cherry, right? We want a red cherry. And we're going to just make a little circle there at the top so that we have a nice little maraschino cherry at the top of our cupcake. And if you want, you can even make a stem on that. I cleaned off my brush by swishing around in the water jar, and I'm taking my little brush and I can dip that in the black paint and make a little stem by pressing the brush to the canvas and lifting it up and off as I move away from that cherry, just to get a little stem in there. And while I have black paint on the brush, I can also go back and outline my wrapper. So I can make a line going up the sides and bottom of my cupcake wrapper. And then I can make long dashes going up and down that echo the edges of that wrapper to give a hint of pleats like you see on cupcake wrappers. So just long lines going up and down that kind of echo the edges of that wrapper. And then I'm going to swish that little skinny brush around in the water jar and blot it on my paper towel. And I'm going to take the blue paint and make little spiral swirls in the icing of my cupcake. Just swirling those around in little spirals, and you can go in either direction, up and down, left or right, or you could also take the tip of that brush and just press it to the painting and make little dots by lifting it off, pressing the brush to the painting and lifting it off to make little dots to give a hint of icing or sprinkles on your icing. Little round swirls and little dots with the blue paint. And of course, you can add your own personal details to your painting and make it really fun. Another detail I want to add, after I swish that little skinny brush around in the water jar, is to pick up white paint on the tip of that little skinny brush and just make a little dot on that cherry to just give a hint of light to make that cherry just really bright on the top of our cupcake. And that is how you paint a happy little cupcake. That completes the directions for this painting. Take a step back and look at the whole thing. Take your time and add any personal details or change the painting however you like. Use as much time as you need to paint until you are happy with your painting. When you decide that you are done, let it dry and be sure to clean your brushes carefully with soap and water. We're glad you could join us here today at Virtual Sipping and Painting Hampden. If you stop by the studio and see us to say hello, be sure to bring your original painting and to show us. And you can also pick up a new kit for your next painting for kids or adults. Check our website at www.sippingandpaintinghampden.com for our upcoming schedule. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hampden Sip and Paint, and like this video. Leave us your comments or suggestions below and email us a photo of your painting at hampdensipandpaint@gmail.com. And if you like this video, please drop a tip in the virtual Venmo tip jar at Ehrnstein Arts. And again, thank you for painting with us at Virtual Sipping and Painting Hampden Kids Paint.